Welcome back, everybody, to another day and another week of the show that you've been not allowed for this weekend. We took a proper weekend and it felt really good, so I have that extra energy. I hope my crew does as well. Producer Kayla, producer Cole, and producer Jaden joining me. Luke Beasley, as always, for today, a thickie, Vicky. We got so much to get into today. The title story a little bit later in the program is about this interview that Trump did with his own daughter-in-law. The type of propaganda that would make proper authoritarian regimes blush and shocked at just how cushy an interview can get, where your own daughter-in-law sits in front of you and asks you softball questions in front of a portrait of yourself, which is literally this interview. And still, under those circumstances, which you would think not a single politician in the world could mess up, Trump messed it up. And it was really a rough watch. We will talk about this little sexy son of a gun and just do a public call to the Democratic Party. Can you, for one moment, get your crap together and just go ahead and make this guy our nominee? Okay? Can we just skip to that part? We'll get into it, as well as Republicans around Trump freaking out over what he's doing to their midterm chances. And then the story we're going to start with Dave Rubin, who I've previously debated with on Piers Morgan's show, who's kind of known as the worst of what being a media personality can be. And what do I mean? Is he the most aggressive? No. Is he the most offensive? No. But he really is an imposter. You know how I've explained to some of you that I feel imposter syndrome whenever the audience gets bigger and bigger and you say, wow, just little old me talking about subjects and people come to me to talk about them? Am I worthy of that? He doesn't feel that, but he should. I shouldn't feel that. Most people shouldn't feel that. It's a toxic feeling you can get of like, do I belong? Do I live up to what people think? But with him, he is a rare person who should feel that insecurity, but he doesn't. It's all out of sorts. And he was absolutely crushed in this Jubilee debate, so we'll get into that in a second. But as always, in between stories, I'll be reading super chats and thanking people for becoming a member. I should note that I think I said this a couple Mondays ago. Today is one of those Mondays where I'm still recovering from our Friday. We had Booze in the News, which all of you saw. It was one of our better episodes. It got completely unhinged. And there's one clip that I think over the weekend I watched like 4 times because it makes me laugh every time. So that is the last live. If you watch this, the live right before it is the Booze in the News. You have to be a member to watch it. But man, it was a fun time and it became much more booze than news. And that was a good time. So I'm still recovering from that. Okay, so a couple stories from now, we'll talk about the title one, which is about the interview. So if you're going, what's the interview about? Just wait, we'll get to that. But first, let's dive into this. Let's do a little bit of a cold open. Do you want to crop that, Jaden? And we can do this. Ready? Here we go.
Hi, how are you?
All right, good. What is one main metric that Donald Trump has made better off since he got in office? So like an example would be GDP, unemployment, inflation, etc.
Well, right now, first off, the big beautiful bill was just passed last year and it's kicking in now, right? It's kicking in now. Okay, so we're going to now see results of that, like even the tariffs. All right, so let's do tariffs. Are you for or against tariffs?
Against the universal tariff. So what's the main metric that he made better off?
What?
What's the main metric that he made better off? GDP, unemployment, inflation? Do you have any idea?
Listen.
I don't think you do.
Do you think, hold on, so you're arguing that things economic...
You literally heard him go, Dave Rubin, If you're just jumping on in the individual video on YouTube, we're going to break down this Jubilee debate between MAGA influencer Dave Rubin and a few different liberals. It was framed as like Dave Rubin versus 20 far left, I guess, Democrats. And this is Parker Get a Job, as he goes by online, friend of the show and a great debater, a master debater, as they say. But you didn't even need to have him to make Dave Rubin look bad. Many people said if they had just had an empty seat sitting across from Dave, he still would have lost the debate. And as I was saying in the intro to today's full show, Dave Rubin is an interesting case study in finding a niche and becoming successful at giving commentary on subjects you know absolutely nothing about. It's not that he, as many people are across the political spectrum who do political analysis, are just kind of Twitter brained. Like they just kind of see stuff on Twitter and then they regurgitate it on their show. And I criticize those folks, and you can pick up on that in debate sometimes. It's even worse than that. He's like Twitter trending brain. Like he just sees the trending stuff and tries to formulate a worldview in a really MAGA algorithm. That's how he comes off. And it's one thing when you monologue and you can set up something to make you sound knowledgeable. But one of the reasons I throw myself into debates, as you've all seen semi-frequently, and why he probably should stay away from them, is because it actually does flesh out how deep you're able to go. Not always. Some people are good at debating, but they don't actually know what they're talking about. But often if you go in and you're kind of unprepared and you have to just rely on the knowledge you genuinely have on subjects, if you don't have much, it's going to become pretty clear throughout the debate. So let me start this because it's just such a remarkable clip from the beginning, and then we'll go through different moments from this debate. And y'all remember the seat Dave Rubin is in was, I guess, a few months ago now, where I was. So this, when I speak on this, is coming from deep experience that I went through exactly what Dave did, but just from the opposite political view. And I would have never shown my face in public again if it went like this for me.
Hi, how are you?
All right, good. What is one main metric that Donald Trump has made better off since he got in office? So like an example would be GDP, unemployment, inflation, et cetera.
Well, right now, first off, the big beautiful bill was just passed last year, and it's kicking in now, right? It's kicking in now. Okay, so we're going to now see results of that, like even the tariffs. All right, so let's do tariffs. Are you for or against tariffs?
Against the universal tariff. So what's the main metric that he made better off?
What?
What's the main metric that he made better off? GDP, unemployment, inflation? Do you have any idea?
Listen.
I don't think you do.
Do you think, hold on, so you're arguing that things economically were better under Joe Biden
At the end of his administration, absolutely.
Yeah, so can you give me an example of how?
Yeah, GDP growth was better off, real median wage growth is better off, inflation was better off at the end of his administration, unemployment was better off at the end of his administration. We had the worst year of job growth in the past 4 years, just this last year under Trump's administration. The inflation, 3.8% year over year since Trump got in office. We're seeing all of those economic indicators become worse off. Can you tell me anything that he's done to make it better off? You say it's broken for Democrats. It sounds like it's broken right now.
Woo! So I could spend this whole segment just being like, lol, Dave, oh, you got crushed. But often, a couple things. First of all, often in debates, if you agree with one side, you think they did well. And if you agree with the other side, you think they did well. This is not one of those examples. This is anyone, even if they agreed with Dave, would go, ow, that did not go well. Okay, that, ooh, just from a debating standpoint. So I don't want to spend the whole time just clowning on his views. Done that plenty. But instead, maybe we'll learn a little bit about debating in case you guys are curious or you're debating with people in performative settings. So not like behind the scenes with your family. That's handled differently than if there's cameras and you're having to move fast and there's a clock. In those settings, one of the most important tactics from a debate strategy standpoint is to keep control of the direction of the debate. So handing over the reins to the person you're debating against, like he did twice in that clip. Wait, so what do you think about tariffs? So what indicators did better? And then just allowing them to go, oh, great, you're letting me make my points? Here we go. Now, I don't know what the claim was supposed to be. If you still vote for Democrats in 2026, this is the claim that Dave brought and got to prepare and the other people didn't. You're voting for broken cities, broken schools, and broken borders.
Right now.
So let me give you an example. If that's your claim, and Parker sits down and goes, what metrics has Trump made better? Your claim is that voting for Democrats is destructive. So you should go, well, first, let's decide if you agree or disagree on my claim. Can you defend and then give some heinous example of something in a Democratic city? And then they go, but what has Trump done? No, I'm talking about Democrats right now. And then you bring it back to your point. The way that Dave just went, sure, you take it, shows that, number one, he didn't exactly know what to say, so he was trying to sort of, well, you take the hot potato because I don't know what to say. You always got to be ready to have something to say if you're debating. Because the more time you spend talking and the less they spend talking, usually the better you come off. Because after Parker makes all those points, Dave doesn't even have, aside from the intellectual resources to debunk any of those points, he also doesn't really have the time. And then definitely doesn't have the factual backing to debunk what Parker said because what he said was true. And it's just a crazy mishap too. You should know Parker knows which metrics Biden did better. That's why he brought it up. So then for you to give him the chance to list them by going, well, what was better under Biden? When there's like a super long list of things. What Biden gave Trump has been made worse. Now, there were unique challenges during the middle of Biden and all that, but what Biden handed Trump economically has been worsened by Trump. And so if you want to make some big brain point about how, wait, trust the plan, then you're going to have to be really good at shifting the discussion to, well, in the long term, tariffs are going to, and then whatever they would say. That's just brutal, that clip, leading to headlines like MAGA host mocked after failing to name any of Trump's achievements, or the MAGA host is fighting for his life after a viral video earned him the dubious new honor of, quote, dumbest man on the internet, which, by the way, the Daily Beast did spell correctly, which in today's day and age is a very difficult task.
Take the B off because most people don't know that, dumb ends with a B, but most people don't know. And all I do is I switch the E with a U.
Most people don't know that dumb ends in a B. Okay, we're going to talk about that more later, so I won't give too much on it. Here is Rubin being confronted on the Russian money scandal, where the Tenet media organization that was paying people like Rubin and Tim Pool and Benny Johnson ended up being funded by the Kremlin. Pretty jarring scandal. And he has had months, years to think of a strong defense of that scandal, and it sounds like he hasn't once practiced in the mirror how he's going to explain away accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars of Russian money.
What is it that I do for Russia?
You suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does.
There's a lot of oligarchic money too that can incentivize people to change their worldview.
Wait. That's
Russian money.
Hold on. That's
for people like Tim Pool or what was the Rubin report?
Yeah.
Did that also accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right. So first off.
Okay, are you okay with this? I don't want to just be like, Dave's dumb, because there's going to be 500 million videos like that. I'm thinking maybe let's learn about debate through the lens of don't do this, okay? Here's what you shouldn't do. When we watched Mehdi Hassan's Jubilee debate, or we watched mine, it was more of a, here's what you should do. Especially Mehdi's. When we watched this one, this is here's what you should not do. But we'll get more specific about it. Close your mouth or open it and start talking until your point is made. That's another rule. Don't do so. Those little, if you start so, you got to finish that sentence. Otherwise, you come off weak and ineffective. And you can hear it here while the debate opponent's setting up his premise. Dave's like, so, which you got to either commit to talking or sit there super confidently silent and then wait to jump in.
Do for Russia?
You suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does.
There's a lot of oligarchic money too that can incentivize people to change their worldview.
Wait. That's
Russian money.
Hold on. That's
for people like Tim Pool or what was the Rubin report?
Yeah.
Did that also accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right.
Hold on. All right, hold on. Hey, wait.
First off, you want to talk about the Tenet thing? What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to go? I'll even.
You're the man. You're the one out of the two. It's you versus 20. You decide what we talk about. If you're good at all, what do you want to talk about? Oh, set yourself up to get spanked.
What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to go? I'll even give it to you. I'll give it to you. Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Why did you take Russian money and pretend like you didn't know?
I was reached out to by Lauren Chen, who you might know as what's her name, Post Millennial Online, or
she's like the Canadian white nationalist that's Asian.
Roaming millennial, and I've known her for about 10 years. And she contacted me a couple of years ago and said that she had some backers that she was talking to, and she was starting a new network, and they were talking to all sorts of people. She mentioned Tim Pool. She mentioned a whole bunch of creators that you guys know, and I'm sure.
Let's say you didn't know that, and I'm not trying to say that you were able to know that it was Russian money. Yeah. But what I do think is interesting is that this anti-woke movement that just says woke a lot and calls it an ideology, it is so easy to be ideologically aligned that Russian propagandists are like, yes, these are our people. This is how we're going to get the American people on board. That's more of like the issue. It's not really your fault. It's more so that your whole ideology is like wokeness is bad.
Oh my gosh, he did so many one-syllable somethings. Wait, what do you? No. I mean, yes, it's fun to watch in this case, but I'm trying to help him for his future debate. You sound resolved. Is that the word? If you sit and go, all right, now I'm going to talk and here's what I'm going to say, and then you're going to listen. And if you keep talking, I'm just going to keep talking over you, and then I'm going to keep repeating my first sentence. And I'm going to keep repeating my first sentence. I'm going to keep repeating my first sentence I'm going to keep repeating my first sentence until you stop talking. Okay, now that you stop talking, I'm going to repeat my first sentence again, and I'm going to make my point. And then if you start talking, I'm going to slip in a quick, wait, I'm going to finish and then keep making your point. And then each time you're interrupted, you repeat the sentence that you just said. As opposed to, I didn't,
It's not really your fault.
What show
it's
did
more
I-
so that
what-
like your
what-
whole ideology is like wokeness
What-
is
Let Dave-
bad.
let
What
Dave
show?
respond, though.
What
This
show?
is
Did,
interesting.
what show did I do for Russia?
What?
What show did I do for
No,
Russia?
I'm not saying
What
you
did I-
did a
what
show
did I
for
do?
Russia.
What
I'm
did
saying
I
Russia
do?
saw you
What
as
did
a
I do?
stooge who could easily say the talking points that
What did I
benefited
do?
them.
I'm the one that got on the Zoom call with the backer to ask more questions about it and everything else. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, Dave, I'm not saying you were saying Russia's such a great country, everyone should love Vladimir Putin. And I get that your show might not even been political in nature.
I know. So
but
you
the
didn't.
fact-
Just to be clear,
Real
you
quick,
didn't
Dave,
know the show.
Dave,
You didn't know the show or what I do.
Yeah. I want.
They want to legitimize you more in the eyes of the viewers that they are trying to capture. That is the point of why Russia paid you specifically. They don't do it out of
Do
the
you think
kindness
it-
of
do
their
you-
hearts.
do you think it-
They didn't do it because they're like, Dave
So where-
seems like a
where
good
is-
guy.
where is
They
the
did it because
case? Where is
Dave's
the case?
politics
Where is
is
the case?
advocating for cheerleading for Donald Trump policies, regardless of any criticism.
Where
That
is
is
the
the
case?
point.
Where is the case?
What do you mean, where's the case?
Where's the case?
a little administration called the Trump administration took over and didn't want to give MAGA influencers a hard time for taking Russian money. Where did what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? He kept saying that. What did I do? What did I do? And the guy's actively telling him, what did he do? Okay, he's telling him, listen, open your ears, you hear. Here. What did I do? You took Russian money. You took Russian money. Hey. And then he thought it was he had 2 minutes to think of a refutation, and he thinks of, so where'd the case go? Because there was an indictment of Tenet Media under the Biden administration. Where'd the case go? Well, Trump ripped in half the Department of Justice and made it just his own loyal servant as opposed to an independent body of justice. So that's not exactly a strong claim. Should we keep this? Feels like good. Get it? This feels, if he were under 18, it would be child abuse. You know what I mean? If he were under 18, I feel like I would be doing child abuse just by playing these clips. But luckily he's not, so it's just abuse.
So tell me, what political concessions have we got with the war with Iran since Trump started it?
Well, right now, Iran literally exports no oil. Every day they are losing $500 million. So what you can do over time...
And there's a fact check. Iran is not exporting no oil, and it is not losing $500 million a day. Recent tanker tracking data cited by the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and others show Iran exporting roughly 1.5 to 2 million barrels a day and earning around $100 to $150 million in oil revenue per day. So what was that, Dave?
What concessions have we got with the war with Iran since Trump started it?
Well, right now, Iran literally exports no oil. Every day they are losing $500 million. So what you can do over time is you have a military adventure, which we had 40 days, which we took out their Air Force and their entire Navy and everything else. And now we completely control their
None of those
economy.
were concerned. What's the political concession since the beginning of the war?
What's the political concession
Yes.
from Iran since
Yes.
the beginning of the war?
Yes, name more.
I love that too. That's actually a fine tactic if you are trying to think of an answer to repeat the question. So what? Oh, so your question is, what is the political concession? So what you're asking me is the concession from Iran to Trump. Is that the question that you're asking? Okay, so that's the question that you're asking me is from Iran to stall. But it is funny because you know that's exactly what it is. Oh, so what's the concession from Iran? Like as if the first time he tried answering the question, that wasn't the question already. Who else? Yes, of course, Iran.
Iran since
Yes.
the beginning of the war?
Yes, name more.
Well, we're having negotiations with them right now.
And we haven't gotten anything?
We're having negotiations with
nothing.
them right now.
So nothing.
Well, we're in a negotiation
We've been
process.
in a war
you
for 2.5 months now. We got
you-
no political concessions.
for 2.5 months. How long do you think wars are
A decade
supposed
ago,
to
we
take?
had a limitation in terms of them enriching uranium to 3.7%. That was going to be in place until 2030. It would still be in place to this
Again,
day
we
if Donald
started.
Trump didn't fall out of the JCPOA.
We started with this. They admitted they were enriching past that point.
After the JCPOA.
Steve Witkoff said 2 or 3 days before the war started that they admitted they were enriching more. Also,
when Trump
you have
pulled
to,
out of the agreement, and then the original strike that we made a year ago,
you also have
they haven't been building up.
You also
since
have to go on the assumption.
According to DNI,
Why is it that you believe the Iranian theocratic regime? Why would you believe that they are doing right?
That's the director.
So if you're getting lost, Parker said U.S. intelligence assessments deemed that you're incorrect, and Dave Rubin said, why do you believe the Iranian regime? So now you're just saying shit. You just saying shit now? Is that what's happening? He's like, oh shoot, I was supposed to be having points. What did I do? What did I do?
They are doing right.
That's the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, appointed by Donald Trump. So explain to me why you don't believe her.
Listen, Marco Rubio. Why
don't you believe her?
Marco, hold on.
Why don't you believe the entire U.S. intelligence committee? Why do you think they're all lying?
So, are you saying that Donald Trump just ignored the entire U.S. intelligence committee?
Yes,
no,
literally, that's what he did.
No, he didn't.
Stop setting him up for dunks. That's brutal. So what you're saying is that Trump sided with Netanyahu's intelligence, but not the U.S. intelligence? Yes. Oh, that's the easiest thing ever. I was debating against like random MAGA boomers. Not even Dave Rubin, who should be more talented at this than just random people sitting in that circle. With love to them, but they weren't like influencers who debate for a living. They were just random supporters of Trump who sat in the circle and debated me. And they were better than Dave Rubin. They made it more difficult. None of them set me up that easily. So what you're saying is that Biden, even for his faults, managed the economy better than Trump? Like, none of them said that to me. And then you just get to go, yep. Wowza.
Yes. That's okay. So that's an interesting disconnect that we have. I mean, Marco
Then why
Rubio,
do they contradict each other?
Marco Rubio very clearly laid out what was going on here.
Yeah, what? Marco Rubio laid out the thing about the Israelis were going to get attacked, so then we had to preemptively attack. That's what Marco Rubio laid out. That makes it even worse, your argument. So let's see, takeaways. If we're just being totally level-headed, not making fun of anyone, prepare at all. Dave, that would be my first bit of advice. Prepare a little bit. You get to make the claims. Like, what was that one even supposed to... That's, if you're still voting for Democrats in 2026, you're voting for broken cities, broken schools, broken borders. Well, he keeps letting it get dragged away from that topic. He has every right to go, we can get to Iran, but first we're going to talk about my claim, defend, and then give some zany example of something bad that happened in a Democratic city. Instead, he just lets the conversation get yanked to Trump's worst points. So that's the other bit of advice, is prepare if you know the topics beforehand, which he did. Doesn't seem like he prepared. Or maybe he forgot everything he prepared. Maybe it was sort of like a Biden debate prep, where you're like at Camp David preparing, but then by the time you get on stage, it was like too much information, and so then you just lose recall of any of it. Then make sure you direct the debate where you want it to go, as opposed to letting your debate opponents yank you around. And there's no shame in going, no, we're going to answer my statement first. We're going to talk about what I want to talk about first, then we can get to what you want to talk about. And then number 3, I guess just don't show your face in public if you're a total fraud. I don't know. I guess that's the only other one. All right, let me check in with the audience. Then we'll get to another story. Then we'll get to the Trump interview story that the title references, and then so much more. A little brilliant, brave patriot who's been a member for a month, named Clean Beautiful Cole.
Clean Beautiful Cole.
Sent an emoji of himself.
Clean Beautiful Cole.
And then an emoji of Pep. Clara, member for 7 months, said, apparently I'm an amazing supporter now. Nah, it's you and the team that's amazing. Aw, that's sweet. Dark Sunray, 24 months. It's a happy 2-year Bees-liversary. I've been waiting, sending energy for your week. Love to the team and community. Can we get a sitting disco dance? Is this disco? Yeah. Disco dance. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? I don't know much. I don't want to do that. I've decided I don't want to do it out of the verse line because I couldn't think of anything that rhymed with much. Deb, member for a month, thank you. Miriam, member for 11 months, said it's been less than 2 years into this, but it feels like a decade already. Thank you, Luke, Jaden, Cole, and Kayla, for everything you do to keep us sane. I appreciate you. Dad RVM said another great wardrobe choice today. Luke, thanks again to you all. Such excellent work you're doing. Have you thought of a travel show? If by that you mean like live shows, yes, we want to so bad. And we're working on it in the sense that we keep mentioning about once a week that we should work on it. But I really do want to work on it. Cassie, member for 6-1, said keep up the amazing work, team. Thank you to each and every one of ya. Let's get into this. There seems to be real panic, crisis level, red alert panic within the GOP about the midterms that are getting closer and closer. They have selected for their nominees in a lot of these key races, like Texas, some really less than ideal candidates. Paxton, of course, there I'm referring to. And there is a fear leading to headlines like this that behind the scenes Republicans are going bonkers watching Trump screw up the midterms. Now, you already have political winds blowing against you whenever you're the party in the White House going into a midterm. But then you have Trump seemingly doing everything he can to nuke their chances. Like, if you tried to make your party fail in an election, you would do everything Trump is doing. And that's causing panic. And let's look at, this is Mark Halperin saying that this is what he's hearing in Republican strategists and polling circles. And then we'll look at what the White House is saying to try to address these concerns.
Want the hammer to fall in the first place? Well, some of them did. If you're cheering...
The hammer? Did someone mention a hammer? Did someone mention a hammer? Did someone...
Does the guy have a big fucking hammer?
Kamala? Why'd you say that?
We'll see. Yeah, we got to move on. I know the allies don't want the hammer to fall anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're cheering, they didn't want the hammer to fall in the first place. Well, some of them did. If you're cheering for the Republicans in the midterms, I'm telling you that if you don't talk to Republican strategists with polling data, you have your head in the sand if you think this is going to go well on the current trajectory related to the war, related to all the things the president focused on, putting his picture on money, building things named after him, lots of buck raking by him and his family. All of these things are driving Republican strategists and candidates on the ballot bonkers, because right now this is setting up to be a wipeout for the Democratic Party. It could change. It could change, but currently it's setting up to be a wipeout. And that's not a partisan view or a media exaggeration. It is based on the polling of Republicans in lots of these states. And you may see states you're not expecting at all to go Democrat, have Democratic wins. Democrats could, I say could, pick up 8 seats in the Senate. They could. Net 8 seats. That'd be incredible. Kevin, what are Democrats doing to try?
And then they go on to say that Democrats do, however, have a unique ability to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, I think is the phrase they use, which is true. But in other news, so I have hope is the point. And yes, I just think one of the bits of advice that Mark ended up saying was that Democrats need to just kind of point. That's it. Now, I want them to have a strong message as to what they're for. And that'll be especially relevant in the 2028 election. Because if you end up getting power of the House and, Lord, please, the Senate, then it's actually a lot about what you're against. Because you're not going to get things passed under Trump. Now, in 2029, the different president you could, and that becomes even more relevant. It's going to be a lot of trying to stop things Trump is doing. So a lot of the campaign, people say, don't make it too much about Trump. This midterm's going to be a referendum on Trump. And so Democrats need to not mess their own chances up by saying too much that sometimes is just not compelling. We've seen the whole DNC debacle with the autopsy. They're just sometimes not the best at making strategic calls. So just do a lot of pointing and gasping. Pointing at the stuff Trump's doing, gasping. Pointing at prices, gasping. And then if you're coherent enough and wise enough to have a strong affirmative message of then what you would do if you had enough power, then deliver it, please. But that was the Halperin point. But there's panic going on, and understandably so. Imagine you're a Republican and you thought there was going to be some message you could rally around at the White House. How are we going to have a strong message about how we're going to deal with the economy? White House, lead the way. Here's the White House economic guy. Hassett. Literally every time I see him, I think of all of the tweets that call him asshat, and I have to work backwards from that to remember his name. I look and I go, Hassett, okay? And here's him doubling down on his advice, his proclamation that actually, while the polls say people hate the economy, they actually love them. Here's how I know, love it. Here's how I know how.
One of the reasons is that people are...
Here's how I know how? What do I say? Here's how I know.
One of the reasons is that people are spending more on gas, but they're also spending more on everything else, not just groceries, but restaurants and so on. And I think that that's a sign that you would see when people are optimistic about the future. So generally...
Kayla, tell me that you're concerned about the economy.
I'm concerned about the economy.
Oh, why? Is it because gas prices?
It's gas prices.
Wait. But
yeah.
Did you ever think that you're also paying a lot on groceries, so it's pretty good?
I noticed that, and I do not like it because I'm getting the same amount of groceries, but my money's costing me more to give them the money for the same amount. And that seemed bad for economy.
But I thought everything was. But everything's up.
Yeah, but bad for me because.
No, but it's up. We want to go up.
Me no company, me pay. I'm trying to use terms he'll understand.
What?
The guy. Wallet empty, me feel bad. Wallet full, me feel good.
You're right. This argument really doesn't work with actual logic. Wow. Thank you. I thought you said when you said I'm using terms he can understand, I thought you said I'm using Chinese terms he can understand. No. And I was like, what? What does that mean? Okay, good. I heard that wrong. I'm glad. I was like, Kayla, what's happening? Yeah, exactly. Imagine him. That's why I wanted to reenact that. Imagine him sitting down with an actual human being and having a conversation and going, why are you mad about gas prices? Groceries are also so high. Now, what he's trying to say that when people spend more is because they're more optimistic, not if they're just buying what they need to buy and it has gone up in prices. Then, yes, there's more spending, but not for the correct reason. Not like prices have stayed pretty stable, but people got optimistic and now they feel like they have more extra income. Very different concept. Now then, is this the credit card one? Yeah, he's confronted with information about credit card debt and how many people are struggling to pay, and does another bizarre brain pretzel to defend that one.
Okay, let's start credit card debt, though, because that's another issue. Wall Street Journal says in the first quarter of this year, the percentage of credit card balances that were at least 90 days delinquent rose to 13.12%, according to data released in May by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. That's the highest level in 15 years and the most since the period following the 2008 financial crisis. People say they're using those cards to get through necessities because they can't afford what's going on. So your message to them?
Right. Well, we talk to the CEOs of the credit card companies all the time, and we do see some increased stress, like the numbers that the Wall Street Journal quotes. But for the most part, the delinquency is different from default, and there's not any kind of financial threat to the credit card companies. That they don't feel like that they're heading towards default scenarios. It's just that people are taking a little bit longer.
Oh, no, you did not do that. No, you did not. Regular consumers are being buried in credit card debt. Americans are falling behind on their $1.25 trillion credit card bill. I want to get the stat right. In the first quarter this year, the percentage of credit card balances that were at least 90 days delinquent rose 13%. And she said that these figures are comparable to before the 2008 financial crisis. That's what she said? And his response is, we talked to the credit card companies and they're not worried? Oh, I'm sure they're not, because people are getting all these extra fees that they're going to have to pay as they aren't paying. That's how the credit card companies make their money. Yeah, maybe they're not panicking. Oh, well, we talked to the credit card companies and they are doing fine. So... Well, yeah, that wasn't really the question. Kayla.
You're not thinking big picture, right? Imagine this. You're a credit card company.
Okay.
People are maxing out their credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
You've given them a 30% APR, adding 30% on top of their debt every single month. They're spending more money, economy good.
What is happening? Who's letting this guy come out and talk like this? Why would that be the argument? On consumer sentiment, he says, I don't believe the consumer sentiment polling that, by the way, all these MAGA people cited whenever it was bad under Biden. It wasn't this bad, but it was bad. They would go, people are mad and the consumer sentiment shows it. Now they say it's fraudulent. But on that, he says everything. No, I'm not that concerned about it because people are spending a lot. Then on this, he says, I'm not concerned about the credit card debt because credit card companies are fine. Could you think of worse, more upsetting responses to Americans? Then let's see if he corrects course here.
For manufacturing workers, for mining workers, the numbers are really astonishing. For mining workers, their real incomes this year are up $7,000 per year.
Okay, so you talk about growing wages, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics, according to their data, inflation is now outpacing wage growth. So if people are making more money, but things are costing more.
All right, you're not ready for this. I need everyone to listen really intently, okay? So we got consumer sentiment, blah, blah. Credit card, blah, blah. Now let's see this. People's incomes are now being chewed into by inflation. Inflation is now outpacing the growth of people's incomes, right? What could he think of? Not that would be a good response. See if you can guess what you could think of to justify that would be the most irritating response possible and the least politically effective, given he's a spokesperson for the White House's economic agenda. Let's see.
How do you answer that question and that concern?
That's a technical matter. That it's the personal income report that came out last week that said that it was slightly negative. But personal income includes lots of things like transfers and food stamps and things that we have been reducing as part of our effort to make government leaner and meaner.
Now, don't get bored by his boring voice. What he said there was insane. Okay, so he botched the first two. Now on try 3, he says he could have gone, well, something Biden and something. And did you see Jill Biden thought Biden was having a stroke and Biden is a Biden? He could have done that. Often they do that somehow. The good parts of the Trump economy, the bad parts of the Biden economy. You could just trot that out again.
I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy.
But no. He says, oh, well, don't worry about that because what's factored into those incomes is a loss of SNAP benefits and Medicaid. So that's technically reducing people's financial standing. But that's not really because their income went down. That's because we took away their food benefits. That's what he said. No. See, because a lot of that's poor people who were poor and then we took away some of their benefits, so now they're even more poor. So who's worried about that?
But personal income includes lots of things like transfers and food stamps and things that we have been reducing as part of our effort to make government leaner and meaner. And so
you made it meaner. You made it a hell of a lot meaner. But I can be my own laugh track now, bitches. No. And then, I mean, maybe do we go to someone who makes Hassett seem really enthusiastic, Bessent, and see if he can quell our concerns?
Another way to phrase it, Maria, though, is many people have said to me, are you surprised that the market's gone up on bad news? And I said, I don't think the news is that bad. I think the news is bad.
Okay. All right, wait. Let me get my head around that one. This is a riddle. Let's see.
People have said to me, are you surprised that the market's gone up on bad news? And I said, I don't think the news is that bad. I think the news is bad. The quality of the reporting, the anti-Americanism, people are so anti-President Trump, anti this administration that I have perfectly asymmetrical information, and I know We have sunk the Iranian Navy, their Air Force, the 80, 90.
This is so brutal to listen to. All right, so the reason why the news isn't that bad, he means the actual events that are happening aren't that bad, but the news media makes it seem bad. That's what that little sexy quote he was trying to create. And he thought it was so profound. The news isn't that bad. Have you ever thought about how the news isn't that bad, but the news is bad? Bro, have you ever thought about touching each other in a non-gay way?
You're Willie Nelson high.
Have you ever thought about celebrating each other's body in a straight way? Have you ever?
What? I'm not going to be distracted by, does the guy have a big fucking hammer?
Okay, Scott, sure. Yeah, it's all the news's fault. No one's actually authentically feeling anything bad. Everything's great. All right, now the Trump interview story after these comments. Josh Johnston said, "Yo, Luke, you can relax now. I'm here." I was getting worried. Thank you for being here. Jenna Artsinola said, "Hey, Luke, not to sound all momish, but I'm so proud of you guys. Love my prep order. And OMG, how I love Kayla's humor. Such a great addition." Very true. Quentin Z, member for 6 months, said, "Does Midas Touch collaborate with the show? It's because Midas Simon is a chat moderator in Midas Touch and is a frequent commentator here." And maybe that meant commenter. No, I mean collaborate. How do you mean collaborate? I know the guy, Ben and the guys, the Midas Touch brothers, Mycelis brothers, and friend of Adam Malkers, a bunch of the people over there doing awesome work, but we're not officially associated. And then I think, have we ever collaborated? We've collaborated with somebody, but not like an official capacity in the way that I think you're asking. We're our own little thing over here. Digital Design and Innove ... said, "Why does Besson always have that stupid little grin?" He does. Okay, I don't know why. I can't answer that, but he definitely does. You're right. This interview should not have been aired on Fox News for reasons of why would you have someone's daughter-in-law give a puff piece to the president instead of doing actual journalism ways, but also it's stale. Even getting Trump the most sugar-coated interview, the most lay-up interview you could possibly have, which is your daughter-in-law who sees you at Thanksgiving, or at least if he were a normal father-in-law, he would see her at Thanksgiving, interviewing you in front of a portrait of yourself. Okay? So, and he still botched it. And they still had to hack through this thing with the most abrupt edits you've ever seen. And still with the edits, he doesn't come out looking good. Aaron Rupar says, "Trump's Fox News interview with his daughter-in-law is taking place in front of a giant portrait of himself. Kim Jong-un would blush." That's something else. So, here's an example of how they were trying to do him a solid and cut out what probably were very incoherent rambles.
For our country. And, to really be great, you need a fair media. And we don't have a fair media. I mean, that's all they can do is lie.
That wasn't even smooth. He said, "Holy shit. Check out the hard cut here. Look at this."
And we don't have a fair media. I mean, that's all they can do is lie.
Well, that's
they
the
have
Democrats.
No policy.
They have nothing.
So they probably cut this thing 100 ways till Sunday to try to make him seem more coherent, but for some reason left in stuff like this.
Take the B off because most people don't know that, dumb ends with a B, but most people don't know. And all I do is I switch the E with a U, and you have a Democrat. And I came up with that by watching Hakeem Jeffries because he's a dumb person. And I said, he's really dumb. I said, wait a minute, he's a Democrat. So I think it works. I don't know that it's going to be as good as Pocahontas or fake news or so many of the others that we've come up with. But, I'm going to just call them Democrats because I don't understand how they can be so stupid.
That's great, Grandpa. Let's go back to the nursing home. You've been out for too long. If your grandpa talked to you that way, you would be so worried.
I'd call the doctor.
Yeah, and he's just running the whole country.
Or even imagine Biden being like, sitting with his daughter. You know, people don't know that it's a dumb Democrat. Dumb. I say, B. There's a B in dumb. I always thought it's dumb, like dummy. But it's dumb, B. Dumby. But it's not Dumby. Do you know Dumbo? Look at those ears. Why does Dumbo ears so big? Dumbo has a B. Dumb, didn't it? No, it does. People say, well, it had a B. It's dummy. Why is dummy but not Dumby? Right? We would be like, oh, maybe ooh. If he had given us one of those interview moments before the debate, we would have never let him go out of the debate. But Trump does it, and it's nothing. It's nothing. Guys, he's 80, and he doesn't know dumb has a B. Now, he says he does, but that other people don't know that most people don't know that.
Take the B off because most people don't know that, dumb ends with a B, but most people don't know.
They do. I also sometimes feel shocked by the state of America, but I think I can trust that at least a majority of Americans know how to spell dumb. Because that would be a very unfortunate word not to know how to spell. It's a little too ironic. And then he's just going through, again, heavily edited. They try to leave in what makes him look good. Still bad. He starts saying they didn't do damage to the Iranian military. His whole argument has been we did a bunch of damage to the military. What is this?
On 100%. Their military, we've sort of left it alone because we think that their military is somewhat moderate. They have other people that aren't moderate. We've taken them out. We've taken different forms of leadership out. We've actually left their military alone. People would be surprised to hear that. Because mistakes have been made in wars where you wipe out everybody and then you have a country that's, for 40 years can never rebuild. You look at what happened with Iraq. We did so bad. That was such a foolish thing, what we did.
So just back in April, he said the United States has completely destroyed Iran's military. And then in that clip, he says, we've actually left their military alone. Now, you are so used to doing Trump translating and assuming what he means instead of actually just listening to the literal meaning of what he says and then going based off of that meaning. We do this thing where we treat him like a kid. Kids go, and so then the ice cream on the floor, the teacher said, and then you are able to go, okay, I connected the dots, and I think you mean that you spilled your ice cream in front of your teacher, and it was embarrassing because you called that teacher mommy. And the whole class laughed. Like you connect the dots through incoherence. That's fine to do with a kid. We do it with Trump too, and that's not fine. But if we're going to do it here, he may have meant, but he didn't say this, he may have meant we've left a lot of the military leadership intact while killing a lot of the other government leaders because we think the military leadership is comprised of people we can negotiate with, whereas like the previous Ayatollah wasn't. That would be what he might have been trying to say, but that's not the literal meaning of what he said. Very bizarre. And by the way, do you remember on Friday, while we're on the topic of Iran, on Friday, I think it was Friday or Thursday, Trump was like, I'm being rushed into the Situation Room to make a final determination on a final deal and Iran is going to agree to everything. You might be curious what happened to that. Update, U.S. military launches new strikes against Iranian territory. Iran fires missiles at Kuwait. Hezbollah launches 50-plus rockets into Israel as the IDF strikes Lebanon. That's how the deal's going. It's not at all. And then Trump tries to convince us the economy's booming.
The Democrats wanted high taxes. I wanted low taxes. I'm right, because that's why the economy is booming. Look, we have a war going on and the economy is booming. We have a war going on. And today we just hit another number 69 is all-time high today. And we have a war going on.
Well, we're...
Okay. No. So another little notable part about that is he says a war is going on when he just told us it's not a war, it's an excursion. So we don't know what he is meaning to call it. Then imagine this time, imagine being at war or an excursion, imagine all of these things happening and people having record low consumer sentiment. And you get your daughter-in-law to spend valuable airtime on television walking you through the White House and you showing her renovations.
The great White House?
Never a dull moment around here. You got things going all the time.
I do.
6 a.m. to 11:30 p.m.
See, we're fixing. These are the greatest fixers there are. These guys have more talent. How's it coming out, fellas? Good? Yeah. Better than you thought even, right? Then I'm going to put you in the front where the cars come in. You know, they have like 200 coats of paint. We're going to strip it and make it good. Good. This is looking good now, huh? Thank you, fellas.
Great job, guys.
So this is the arena that's being built for UFC.
It is huge.
And it's right at the front door to the White House. And you'll never see it again. It's never happened before, and you'll never see it again. And it's great. And the UFC is going to have all of their best fighters, the best fighters in the world. They're all.
So this is the gap. There's always a gap between media outlets, the wealthy hosts who host the shows, and average Americans. And then sometimes, often, outlets try to make an effort to tap into what people actually care about. But Fox News has leaned so hard into Trump propaganda that you have someone named Laura Trump interviewing the President Trump about the UFC event that's going to be happening on the White House lawn that may make Dana White millions. I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be very well viewed. I'm going to watch it. But it's not at all, what people want the president to be working on. And they say walk and chew gum at the same time. There is only so much time in the day. And the president could be focusing on a lot of things other than walking around the White House showing all the different ballroom updates.
This will be the entrance into the ballroom. The ballroom will be right here. This is a beautiful glass tunnel. Beautiful tunnel that goes right into the ballroom. Ballroom's right there. Pretty good, right?
You've had so much fun, I feel like, designing this.
Well, I did. It's going to be one of the greatest. I would say it will be the greatest facility of its kind ever built, by far. There'll never be anything like it. And we're ahead of schedule. We're right on budget.
That's par for course.
And it's a gift from me and from great...
They're ahead of schedule and right on budget. And by right on budget, he means it went from, what was it, 100 million originally or 200 million? That was going to be all funded by donors to congressional Republicans are trying to allocate $1 billion to it. Right on budget. And he said that we are going to have the inauguration here.
Well, we'll have this. I'll have this. Actually, the funny thing is that from the standpoint of usage, other presidents will have it for 200 years. I'll have it for about 6 months. In other words, when it's finished, I'll only have it for I'll only have the use of it for 6 months. It's a great facility, and we're going to have the inauguration here.
Oh, wow.
We'll have the inauguration here. It's going to hold, like, I had mine in the Capitol. In the Capitol, I had 902 people.
So some people are, I think, reading a lot into that claim of we are going to have the inauguration here. Like, who is we for whose inauguration? I guess you could just assume he's talking about future presidents will. I doubt it. When President Ossoff is sworn in, I doubt that he'll be like, can I please do it in the ballroom? Than this.
Well, it's a very secure, most secure facility ever built. And obviously, with the way the world is now, that's very important. When you have President Xi, you have the King and Queen of England. We had the King and Queen in this room.
Yeah, right here.
But we could hold 107 people. Mm-hmm. And we would have had 2,000 people. We're going to have one that nobody will have anything like what we have. So, but you come in, and you have the entire White House main floor, cocktails, everything. And then they go into the door, and they go into the dinner. They have dinner.
You're also doing...
This really is out of North Korea. We watched those videos of Kim Jong-un getting a tour of their nice hotels and trying to open up to some of their allies, some tourism, get some extra revenue for North Korea. And so they're opening up to tourism for certain luxury hotels. And Kim Jong-un walks in and there's ladies in a bathtub or in a hot tub. And he's like, wow, this is a hot tub. Come travel to North Korea. These videos were so bizarre because it's, hey, I guess the citizens in the countries like China and stuff that they're going to allow tourism from, obviously not from here, but hey, you will never get anything like that in China. You got to come to North Korea to get a generic hotel room bed and a hot tub. Hey, Kim Jong-un, they already have that other places without having to go to North Korea. But that's the vibe. And his citizens are suffering, Kim Jong-un, and he's showing off, oh, look at this hotel where people can stay. Very similar vibe to this interview. No one cares. And Trump's talking about, so this is where they'll have the cocktails and then they'll go over there for a meal. It'll be really nice. Could not be more out of touch. And finally, Trump was notified, whoopsie, the UFC event in honor of the 250 America thing happens to be on Trump's birthday.
Away, you can see outside the construction is happening from this amazing, historic UFC event. It's obviously right outside on the White House lawn. It coincides with your 80th birthday, which is incredible.
I hate to hear that name. And that's on June 14th, and it's the hardest ticket. I have never been asked for people.
He says, I hate to see that. It reminds me a lot of when it was accidentally scheduled on his birthday to have a big army parade. No, it's really for the army. We're really celebrating for the army, and it's on my birthday. And I will be there, and everyone will cheer for me. Oh, did we schedule the UFC fight on my birthday? Whoops. I promise I won't make it all about myself. That's crazy. All right, let's see. Lindale McView. Thank you for the super chat. I'm driving faster. Said, hi, everyone. Love the short, funny videos and appreciate all the hard work you all do to put this together. God bless. Thank you so much. I'm sending money right now to Kayla on accident. What was this? Was that was so weird. I accidentally clicked a bunch of buttons. It just started telling me that I was typing in money to send. That's so weird. Don't know these gadgets and gizmos have gotten so advanced. All right, let's talk about this. Remember at that Trump rally in New York somewhat recently, New York Giants quarterback Jackson Dart went on stage and said, it's my honor and pleasure and blessing and awesomeness, and I'm so happy to introduce President Trump. And then he introduces President Trump, and he comes out, and he's like, hugging. And then Trump's like, you're so sexy. I love you. And Jackson Dart got a lot of backlash, including from his own teammates, which is not good. As a quarterback of a team, you don't want your own teammates who might be blocking for you or playing on the defense that you need to keep down the offensive, points in a game. If they turn against you, that's bad for you. Now, before I play Trump talking about Jackson Dart and Jackson Dart getting confronted about this by a reporter, and he just wussies out. This, again, New York Giants quarterback, he comes out in 2026 to make his first endorsement of Trump. Bad time, brother. You missed the whole Trump train when everyone was jumping on it. Everyone's jumping off of it now. Weird time to jump on it. But then he immediately backtracks. And it's like, all right, you should have known that by standing on stage and introducing him, as we see as an endorsement, stand by it or don't ever have done it. Because I'm not one of those people who says, if you're in football, you shouldn't speak about politics. Speak about it, you won't speak about it. And then I can speak about how I think it was dumb. So here's Trump talking about him, then we'll look at Dart being confronted by a reporter.
Last week, you had the Giants quarterback, Jackson Dart, join you on stage at a rally. And as predicted, I think we could all predict it, all of the haters, all the crazy people came out for him, showed him a lot of animosity for being on stage with you. Do you have any idea why it is that the Trump derangement syndrome with some of these people is so strong that you live rent-free in their heads and they can't help themselves but to be outraged about somebody joining you on stage? Well,
first of all, I wish I looked just like Jackson. This is a guy, I said, is he a male model or what? He's a handsome guy, like a beautiful guy, and conservative guy. He said, I love you, sir. And I didn't know he was doing it, but he's potentially a great quarterback. He's a young.
Like what I said earlier, he said, I love you, sir. And I said, can we celebrate each other's bodies as two straight men? If you don't know who Jackson Dart is, it's not wrong. He's a looker. He's a looker for sure. But that might be the only thing going for him, if you catch my drift. The exterior might be the best thing. Okay. You can take that down. No, he's good. I mean, he's good at quarterbacking, sort of. I mean, he is, right? He is. He's in the NFL, starting Giants quarterback. But you gotta, this is my point. You want to endorse Trump, and then your fans can go, ugh. Especially in 2026. Everyone's kind of sick of him, even the people who used to like him. Except for a very small percentage of the country. And then also, you're not the deep red quarterback of the We Love Trump Eagle football team. You're the president of the New York Giants. I mean, the quarterback of the New York Giants. New York, very anti-Trump, very blue area. Just strategically, it's an interesting call to say, I know a lot of my fans are going to hate this. I'm going to do it anyway. Again, we've gone through this before. I'll show you the clip to remind you with Piers Morgan, where he's like, well, you probably will say that athletes shouldn't speak on politics whenever you don't like what they say, but you probably say that they should speak on politics when you like what they say. No, I think you should speak on politics if you want to speak on politics. If celebrity, if you're Nicki Minaj, if you're Jackson Dart, if you're Taylor Swift and you're doing it in favor of a cause I like. And then if I don't like what you say, I'll take issue with it, even though you definitely have the right to say it. And I even encourage you, share it. I'd like to know. And then I can be like, ew. And no one did anything that mean to him. His fellow football player, I'm blanking on the name, but he was like, dude, what is this? And then a bunch of people were saying, hey, what? I don't like that. I think less of you now. From a political standpoint. Fine. They get to say that. You can't frame this as lunatics came after you and demanded that you apologize. They cannot like that you like a really destructive president, and you can stand by it. Or, like he did, you can wussy out.
Jackson, respectfully, do you understand why introducing that president would be something that some of your teammates would have a problem with, and why it's viewed as controversial?
Look, I respect the question. I understand the question. My statement's all that I have for you guys right now, and that's where I'm at.
Do you think you made a mistake?
Look, I just gave my statement, so I ask that we can all respect and understand that. That's where I'm at right now.
Why are you so... Oh, look at his face. Why are you so scared? Just be like, what'd you do it for? Say what you did. That's fine. People are acting like, oh, this is what happens when you cross liberals. They make you scared, like a scared little puppy who has to go apologize. No. Whenever Taylor Swift endorsed someone Trump didn't like, the president or the future president and former president of the United States posted all caps, I hate Taylor Swift. Okay? So don't give me this. It's always okay when celebrities say they're liberal, but it's never okay when they're MAGA. No, you can be MAGA, and then we can go, boo. Just like how the president went, I hate Taylor Swift. Because she said something that he didn't like politically. Just be consistent. But every time, it's someone going MAGA, Fox News is like, woo, yeah, culture's going MAGA. And then whenever it's Taylor Swift, they're like, I just don't think that these celebrities should get involved in politics. Get involved if you want to get involved, and then I'll get involved right back at ya. So this was, you saw in that clip, he was like, you can just see my previous statement. Previous statement. This is the previous statement. Aforementioned statement. Let's watch.
Appreciate y'all being here. I understand that there's probably going to be questions that involve off the field topics, and for that I have a statement, and I hope I can answer as many of those questions that y'all may have, and I ask that can talk about football after that, and I hope that we can understand and respect that from each other. Obviously this was a unique opportunity, being asked and given the opportunity to introduce the President of the United States. My thinking was pretty simple, in the fact of I've always loved this country. I have extended family members who have fought in wars. I have two uncles who have retired from the Air Force Academy and served themselves, and I even have a great-grandfather who served as Secretary of Treasury at some point. So the president position has always been a position that I've well respected, regardless of political affiliation.
Here's what I think, because he's trying to make it better. He doesn't want his own teammates mad at him. He doesn't want like a linebacker during a practice to come just tackle him really hard. Oh my gosh, can you imagine tackling that Jackson Dart? So beautiful, he's so handsome, just getting him on the ground and tussling and saying, I didn't hear the whistle. I didn't
Does
hear
the guy have
whistle.
a big fucking hammer?
So he's trying to smooth it over. Here's what I think. He says, I just have reverence for the office of the presidency. Okay? And that's why I went to a Trump rally. Okay. Just to be clear, there's plenty. I don't even blame athletes when they go to the White House and get honored for winning championships. Because that's a White House event. You're saying, I'm just going to be honored by the office of the presidency. I don't care about who the president is. Okay? Fine. You can disagree with that, but that's fine. This was a Trump political rally. Him as the candidate, as the person, not like an official White House thing. So that's a distinguishment. But fine, he's thinking, I just have reverence for the White House. I don't know if that's true, if he felt the same way about Biden, but let's just say this. He can make it all better if he will go to Ireland, stand on stage, and go, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored, I'm humbled, I'm privileged, I'm appreciative to introduce the 46th President of the United States. And then he says, hit it, and you have that song. And then Biden walks out, and does a speech. Mother Mary, I see the light, as we've watched. If he will do that, then I will forgive him. Because then that's really just reverence towards any president.
Regardless of political party, and my intentions were just that. I also understand in this world, politics can be a sensitive matter, a sensitive topic. I also understand that I am the quarterback of the New York Giants, and that involves a lot of responsibility. It's under a limelight, under a microscope, and there's a lot that comes with that, and it's been something that I've embraced. I've loved being here. I've loved the city of New York.
Can I just get any anti-Trump linebacker or defensive lineman to agree to one thing for me? Just for me. Just wait until the next season. Once you see a nice hole open up, go and tackle him really hard, and then stand over him and do the Trump dance. Okay, just one time, and then it's over, and then I'm done with this topic. But if just one person could do that and then do then I would feel very satisfied. So I'd referenced, because there is actually a broader political point. Here is a chance for me to demonstrate, as I just have throughout the segment, that there is a consistent principle exhibited by me, and I think many of you, which is when an athlete or a celebrity, a pop star, Nicki Minaj, comes out, Kid Rock, and goes, I love Trump, our response isn't, as a general rule, you should just all stay out of politics. It's, hey, totally fine if you want to involve yourself, and then we're going to say we don't like what you said, as opposed to your ability to say it. Whereas it feels like there's this issue on the right where when it's someone they like, they say, that's so brave and awesome. And whenever it's, for example, Olympians at the Olympics speaking out against the Trump administration sort of passively, MAGA went crazy saying Olympians should just never get involved in politics. It's so disgraceful. Because they don't want to make it about arguing what the Olympian or the athlete or the celebrity said, because that's tougher to go point by point and say, here's what they said and here's why it's wrong. It's easier to go, just as a rule I have, people shouldn't involve themselves. But they only say that when it's critical of Trump, not when it's Jackson Dart. And you'll remember that Piers Morgan thought that bringing up the Olympians speaking out against Trump was going to cause me to go, that's awesome. And then he was going to go, but what if they were conservative? And I would go, oh, you're right. Olympians shouldn't speak about politics. But of course, I'm not a dumbo. B. There's a B in dumb.
So Luke Beasley, what do you make of that?
Yeah, those are patriots. That is so incredible that they chose to say that. As was referenced, some of them I think got asked, or maybe all of them, and maybe were encouraged to share their view. But we all, I'm American. Americans just watched, the world just watched the president come out in his administration and lie about people who had been shot during protests. To me, I'm a little bit disoriented by this conversation because it's like all of this thought and stress, and you're referencing, I guess some people out there are upset that they're speaking out. to me, I wish that outrage was channeled at the reasons that they feel the need on the world stage to speak out. But I will say a lot of people are misrepresenting what they're saying. It cracks me up because some of them go, I just think we should represent love and kindness and compassion, to which MAGA reacts, they must be attacking us, which no one even named Trump, it didn't sound like, but was just speaking about the moment of division. And then in many people's views, including mine, an authoritarian shift in the United States. And to use your platform to do the most American thing in the world, which is represent your country and your people while being critical of your government, to me is the height of patriotism. And lastly, I do agree.
But how would you feel? Okay,
a lot of people
how would you feel?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if this one will work on you, lad. I really think he thought what this next part, because he jumps in, he goes, okay, but let me see about this little trick I have up my sleeve. What if they were MAGA? The height of patriotism. And lastly, I do agree.
But how would you feel? Okay,
a lot of people
how would you feel?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, but Luke, how would you feel if it was a conservative voting athlete at the Summer Olympics during the Biden administration ripping into Joe Biden, for example? In other words, if you're honest, you have an intellectual honesty about this that is not based on partisan politics. It's easy to say, well, I love them whacking Trump or the Trump administration, but would you feel the same way? I had the same debate in an earlier debate about the Bad Bunny Super Bowl performance, right? Everybody, it seemed to me, took politically partisan lines, and a lot of it was ridiculous because they would have said the complete opposite had it been their go. In other words, if Kid Rock had been the halftime show, all of those saying Bad Bunny's a leftist activist and shouldn't be allowed to perform would have said, oh, great, we've got a right-wing activist. That's fantastic. So my question for you is, would you feel the same way if it was a conservative voting athlete whacking Biden, for example?
Okay, hear this out, okay? I would not like it because they would be wrong, and what is being said by the Olympians now is correct. But the reason that I wouldn't like it is not because I don't support the fact that people can and even should, in many cases, if they feel compelled, use their platform and their influence to advocate for what they believe in. So actually, you can't go find any clips of me being like, shut up and dribble, or people shouldn't talk about politics in this space or that space. I agree we're all a little bit tired with everything being politicized, but in a sense, it's kind of one of those moments where you're called to. So for me, I am morally consistent on this because I think you absolutely have that right. The reason that I'm critical of Nicki Minaj, for example, is not because I think she should just stick to music. It's just because I disagree with what she's saying. And so I'll criticize what she's saying and not the fact that she's saying something.
Okay, Joey Barton, I mean...
yeah.
Crock of shit.
And then, of course, later, I'm not playing this because we already did a whole review of that back when it actually happened. But then we get into a whole thing later where he's like, well, did you know that woke people got upset with woke? Did you know that Trump won because people thought woke, not binary, woke. But were you gonna say something?
Yeah, they always do these insane false equivalencies because it's like, using Kid Rock as an example, his whole thing that got him to be MAGA famous was shooting the case of Bud Light after the Dylan whatever situation situation, which is invoking violence. And they're mad at Bad Bunny because at his Super Bowl performance he said the only thing more powerful than hate is love. Together we are America. And they were like, so you want me dead? Cool. Like, that's insane.
That's a good point. I always give them the comparison because I just want to make the point that you can just be consistent and say everyone can speak out against about politics, but I'll just decide if I agree or not, and that's beautiful and that's fine. We don't have to pretend like we have some principle that, well, these people should just never talk about it. But then that's a great point, Kayla, because it was the same thing on the Olympians. A bunch of them that got heat they were asked about the state of politics. It was right after the murders of protesters during ICE protests. And they would be like, I just think that we should stand up for compassion and push back against hate. And MAGA was like, they're so political and they hate Trump. Trump derangement syndrome. Wait, because they said love, love, love? And same thing with Bad Bunny. You're right that if Kid Rock went out there, he'd be like, screw you, Dylan Mulvaney, yeah, woo, I am Kid Rock. And then Bad Bunny was just like, hola. And they were like, ah! This is so offensive to me and my culture. What is this whole lot of shit? So it's not exactly a fair equivalent. That's a good point, Kayla. Had not thought about that. So no, Dart politics away, and we can react the way that we'd like to react as long as it's peaceful, of course. I just saw this come in. Janus, I think Janus, probably Janice Investa, said, please make a video on Candace Owens' trip to Russia now. Is there an Owens trip to Russia? I hadn't seen that yet. Oh no, I'll look into that. We'll talk about it on the bonus show. Oh no, Driz her, happy Pride, y'all. True, it's Pride Month. Pride Month! Right? Yeah, June? Yes, very exciting. Soren, June 14th is my birthday too. Oh no. Well, just make it a celebration of you then. Take back some of the celebratory power. That would be my argument. Let's get into this. One moment here, so go ahead and put that split screen. One moment I want to dive into more in depth from Trump's interview with Laura Trump that we previously talked about on Fox News, weird softball interview with his own daughter-in-law in front of a portrait of himself, is whenever he brings up Harry Inton, CNN's data guru, okay? Polling guy. We love him here at this show. And Trump thinks that he loves him because they showed him one clip of Harry Inton. And that one clip was Harry Inton showing a poll of how MAGA voters still support Trump. Yes, if you still identify as MAGA, you still like Trump. The people who don't like Trump now, and the real notable shift are the people who used to consider themselves being MAGA, who don't anymore. Or who used to vote for Trump, don't anymore. So, Trump only was shown that poll, 100% support, and it got in his head now he thinks Harry Inton loves him or something. And so he figuratively blows a kiss to Harry Inton. And then I'm going to show you some videos of Inton that I think will make Trump very much regret blowing that kiss figuratively.
Those polls that
was for the title.
They always say 80-20. I think many of these things are 97-3. I think they're 100-0. I mean, did you see where CNN did a poll on me and I was 100% with MAGA? They couldn't believe it. Harry Inton, who seems like a nice guy, he's pretty legit. He gives me a lot of good polls, I'll tell you. But which means he's in trouble. His job must be in trouble. But he did a poll about the Republican Party and MAGA and Trump's popularity. And he said, he's at 100%. I don't believe that. It was actually 100% poll. Well, you saw that in the election the other night, you know? Well,
so here's the deal, guys. I don't need to go through that. We've gone through it a bunch. What that poll was really meaningless. It was like, if you still support Trump, do you still support him? Yeah, okay, of course. But what's happening is Trump's getting so unpopular in all the data. If he brings in actual pollsters, if he gets anyone to assess the state of things for him, they would say, this is bad, sir. Sir, this is bad. So, because they can't say that, they have to go to him and find something. And in the last 6 months, they've been able to find two things that make him happy. A video of Harry Inton showing that poll that probably was kind of a weird thing to show because of the circular nature of the question. Amid Harry Inton showing lots of horrendous polls for Trump. But they don't show that to Trump. They show that one little clip. And then they show him, hey, you're really popular, supposedly, in Israel. And that caused Trump to say, after this, I might go run for prime minister in Israel because I'm at 99% in Israel. So things are so rough for him that he's having to be shown polls that are incoherent questions and incoherent conclusions, or that's it. Like, that's the one thing they could show him. Or they can show him that he's popular in a different country and he can feel good about being popular in not the country he's president of, which is very much unhelpful to getting feedback on your governance. But since he brought up Harry Inton, let's see what Harry Inton's been up to. Harry Inton recently ridiculed Trump with a hilarious comparison. Apparently, let me just read this. Inton revealed that more Americans believe the moon landing was faked than think it's acceptable to name federal buildings after Trump. More Americans support the theory that the moon landing was fake than think Trump's naming everything after himself is reasonable. Or you have segments like this recently.
Is here to tell us something we don't know. Like, Who's going to pay that? No, just kidding.
I was going to say that I can't afford that ticket.
So $60 million they're putting into this.
Yeah.
And expecting or anticipating to lose $30 million? I mean, how big is UFC now?
I mean, UFC is huge now. One way to put it into some perspective for you, right, is how many people tuned into the initial event on Paramount Plus. It was 5 million people who tuned in. To give you an idea, so far in the NHL playoffs this year, from rounds 1 and 2, the average game is getting 3.3 million average viewership. Now, that's not exactly apples to apples, but it does suggest, and what a lot of the polling suggests as well, is that UFC right now is like the number 4 sport in America, right? It's football, baseball, basketball, and then...
Wait. Right now, this is not negative to Trump.
UFC, it's huge.
No, it's huge. And it's also part the group, I would say, if I'm going to generalize, that is attracted to this most, young men, are a big part of what helped get Donald Trump elected this time around. How is he doing with them right now?
Yeah, okay. So, as you mentioned, you look at the polling, you see that, the younger fans, it tends to be younger folks, younger men specifically, who are the big fans of UFC. And Donald Trump, of course, put in a historic performance with them back in the 2024 election for a Republican candidate for president. He actually won them. He won men under the age of 30 by a point. Look at his net approval rating now, though, with them. Oh, my goodness gracious. He is...
I was literally about to ask you if that was a typo.
No, that is not a typo. Me and my crack crew spend many hours on those slides, and we can tell you that is not a typo. That is a 56-point move against the President of the United States among young...
Hey, Trump, you like Harry? He's legit. He is legit, by the way. You seeing this? In a key demographic, you went from in the positives to negative 55, my mouth is not mouthing today, points in net approval. Negative 50. That's so negative. You showing that to him, White House staff? Trump praised CNN's Entin as a good guy over a poll he liked, but here are 5 times Entin showcased his atrocious numbers.
A brain.
I had a long weekend. Entin tells Trump gas prices are a political nightmare as he hits all-time disapproval rating. Did they show him that clip of Entin? Did they show him this one? Quote, "These are atrocious." Entin hits Trump with reality check on approval. Did they show him this one? Oh my goodness, Entin shocked, woof, by Trump's free fall among Latino men. What about this one? Entin reports Trump's new poll theme is negative approval. Entin declares Trump getting worst polls ever for any president on inflation just days before Trump prays. So this is actually more illustrative of a phenomenon than you would expect. Because it's not just that Trump was like, I love you, Harry, and Harry lately has been showing brutal polls for Trump one after another, because that's what the reality is on the ground. People are PO'd at Trump. But it's that for Entin to have done this many segments with this negative of material, and Trump not to have heard about it and still think it makes any sense for him to be like, go watch that Harry Entin guy, he definitely always hypes me up, means that he is so isolated. There were big concerns around, are people around Joe Biden telling him that it's clear the impact of his aging, or is he in a echo chamber of his own making, and Jill is saying keep it up, and Hunter's like, come on, let's go. It's like that times 10, where he's just being we heard that reporting about one of his aides who goes and just shows him positive stuff about himself. But think about how difficult that job is getting now for that person, where you got to dig so deep. Polls, I can't find anything that'll make them happy. Dig. Until you get to, here's a poll that's positive about you in Israel. That's how much these people are having to dig to give them positive information. And so you can imagine when we cover these stories of him saying things are going great, everyone's happy, the economy's perfect. Yes, it's in part him just lying, but it's also because he's choosing to be lied to. He needs constantly, otherwise he melts down, to be told he's doing a perfect job and everyone loves him. Really disturbing. Oh, our next story, less disturbing. quick little comment, and then we'll talk about that. Whole W Milk said, I'd be curious to ask my brother about the building naming because he's both a MAGA and thinks the moon landing was fake. Both those I feel like are already nearly a complete circle. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a big crossover. It's notable whenever people just blurt that out because it always comes up real casually. You'll be sitting on a date trying to think of one of those lines where you go, wow, that's so beautiful. Oh, also the stars are beautiful as you're looking at them. And they're like, oh, he meant I was beautiful. Mwah! Right? So you're thinking that, you're like, oh, I'm going to point out the moon. Wow, that moon is sexy. Wait. Sexy. Oh, so is the moon. That one doesn't work as well. And then the person goes, yeah, isn't it so weird that that's just a big light? And you're like, yeah, in a way it is. Just like God put a light on our lives. Yeah. And they're like, no, like, how did they get Neil Armstrong to lie about doing that? And you're thinking, okay, let me quickly change the subject so I can get at least a little something, not lose all of my attraction for this person, get a little bit of a fun night, and then bail afterwards. Because if I hear any more about this, I'm really going to lose the vibe I had going here with you. It's always quite startling. Jared Frank said, did Cole get contacts or is he mogging you? Cole has been mogging me since the day I met him. Okay, this is not a new phenomenon.
I'm mogging you right now.
Of mogging. Can we just effing do it? Can we just do it? Can we just say, hey everyone, we need a fresh new candidate. Let's be honest, we need someone who has sex appeal. You're like, what, Luke? Whoa. No, it's true. It's just true. There's so many candidates I love, but we need someone who makes you feel the type of way you feel whenever you hear Jon Ossoff talk. Jon Ossoff is the senator from Georgia. He's running for re-election in Georgia. If he gets reelected, which I think that he will, that'll be really important for the Senate, but it'll also set him up for a presidential run. He was previously asked, and it made me very sad because he was like, no, I'm not thinking about running for president, which they say that and they do, but it really felt like he meant it, and it made me sad. So, John, no. Not your choice anymore. We are requiring you to run for president. Now, I'm not saying that in all the debates and all the primary campaigning, we won't realize maybe suddenly that there's a better candidate. Maybe there is. But goodness gracious, imagine, if you will, was this going up against J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Trump, third time, fourth time. It would be no contest. He could just stand on the stage. They ask him a question. He says nothing, and he just looks at his opponent and just laser beams them. Okay, so I'm being a little bit silly. Obviously, I care the most about policy and messaging and resonance and all of those things. And he is awesome on all those, from what I can tell. And while people are talking about Ossoff, I've made it my own personal task to get way more people talking about him. Because I bring up Newsom, everyone in random restaurants and people that I'm talking to know who that is. I bring up AOC, they know who that is. I bring up Shapiro, they don't know as much. Kamala, obviously they know. People aren't talking out in the world, just random places, enough about Ossoff, and they need to.
Does the guy have a big fucking hammer?
Oh my gosh. Because he's giving me Obama 2008 energy. He really is. That type of, ooh, this is fresh, energetic, hopeful.
Donald spent Saturday complaining on the internet. Listen to this. 6 hours, 52 posts. The president attacked the Pope. He posted his own face on Mount Rushmore and a made-up Trump Peace Prize. He announced 3 times America's back, and he assured an increasingly concerned public he's in excellent health. And when not posting, he's been trying to rob us. Have you seen it? He sued the U.S. government he commands for $10 billion. he settled the suit with himself to create a $1.8 billion slush fund so he can cut checks to cronies and Jan 6 foot soldiers. The same men who sacked the Capitol to seize the presidency for Donald Trump, who beat police officers with flagpoles, built a gallows on the Capitol lawn, and hunted the vice president to lynch him. Donald Trump's brown shirts. He pardoned them, and now he wants you to pay him. He's trying to put his face on the money. Did you see that?
Like, where's he looking there? We don't know. But you want to be looking where he's looking now. Watch this. This is a masterclass in like speech skills, because you have to be intentional. What your body actually wants to do when you're giving a speech is be like moving and looking all around and be like, oh, there's so many people everywhere. But instead, you learn this in like classes about how to speak better. You real intentionally say something, turn your head, stare, say something, turn it, say something. And then regardless of if there's an upper gallery or whatever they call that up here, you know, the higher level, there is, he's speaking in a theater, up here, balcony. Regardless of if there's a balcony. What'd you say? Chimney? Mezzanine. Woo! You still look up like there is one. Right? You see? Did you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Watch this.
Trying to put his face on the money. Did you see that? He's building a monument to himself. But see, Atlanta, he's doing these things now because no one will honor him when he's gone.
Oh.
Because he's a failed president and a national disgrace.
And then he looks at the camera and he breaks the fourth wall. Look, what is this? How are you gonna do this to me, John? You can't do this to me without warning. The whole time he doesn't glance at that side camera. And at the end of saying, when Trump is gone, he will not be remembered, in a positive light at least. He will not be honored because he's a national disgrace. Looks at the camera. Except did you cut to it? Jaden. Making me look silly. And then he looks at the camera. That's brilliant. Wow. And also what he's saying is correct. Okay, it's not just the aesthetics. It's also what he's saying. And I've shown you these clips so many times, so I won't play them in this segment. But what he's setting up is for his Senate campaign and then hopefully future presidential campaign is a discussion. He breaks down real clearly of how Trump is the embodiment of corruption. But it's not just him. There's a system that enables this corruption. And that corruption, talking about the way that our campaigns are financed, and then also Trump's just brazen corruption out in the open, is the thing that causes prescription drugs to be too high, healthcare to not be affordable, or people not have access to insurance, or wages not to be high enough. And he goes through not just, hey, these are problems and we would fix them, but here's how they became problems. And here's the source. And if we attack that source, we can address a lot of other issues after that. I think it's a brilliant message. I've played those clips. He takes sort of his time getting through it, so I won't play it again here. But there's a substantive vision for not just what we like ahead, but how and why we haven't gotten those things yet. And if you can understand why we failed, why previous Democrats even have failed to fix some of these problems, then you have a better shot of actually addressing them. And then you have this.
He promised to bring down prices on day one. Instead, prices are soaring. Ground beef's up 25% since Trump was sworn in. Coffee, 40%. The price of gas, 33%. Groceries, rent, health care, and the power bill hit their new all-time highs last month. And while you pay more for everything, Donald Trump wants your tax dollars for what many are calling the Jeffrey Epstein Memorial Ballroom. By the way, he forced out that Republican congressman, the one who made him release the Epstein files. Did you see that? That is true commitment to the cover-up.
A lot of people say the things that he's saying. A lot of people level the criticisms against Trump that he's leveling. But somehow, this camera team knows exactly what they're doing. This is the next clip I have for you that starts from just a 180 from the back view of him at the crowd so that we can see the crowd. Thank you. No, I was going to say, but the way he's breaking it down, it hits harder. It hits harder for sure. Because the message around Epstein, he's looped in the way that Epstein was able to get away with what he has is indicative of the way that elites, the way that the oligarchs are able to live under a very different system than everyone else lives under. Economically, prosecutorially. What? Giggling. Nicole's giggling. All right, fine. I'll play the clip so we won't keep staring at this one angle.
And we're going to have to work for the next 5 months because the whole country is counting on us again. There is an awful lot at stake. If ever a moment called for checks and balances, this is it. And it's not just the corruption and incompetence. It's this unmistakable project not to lead us, but to rule us as subjects. The president who once tried to overturn his own defeat now tries to jail elected leaders of the opposition, tries to prosecute Americans who defy or criticize him, tries to seize control of elections nationwide.
And he goes on and keeps making these points brilliantly. So, here's the thing you might be thinking. That's compelling. And I only saw a couple little tidbits. And I'm joking a lot, obviously, to have fun around the looks and stuff. But, I mean, it's not a factor. It is a factor. Obama was charismatic, young, attractive. So that's also, it is a factor. People actually do get more compelled by people that look good. It's true. So we elected Trump. No, not always, but sometimes. Especially your young JFK types. They're supposed to be rising stars, young, fresh, exciting, handsome. But that's not the only factor. I also think that the fact that he comes from a red state like Georgia, that now Democrats have been able to win in the Senate, but that's kind of a miracle and it's still perceived as a pretty red state, is unique. And then his policy agenda seems strong. His message is strong. And then you might be thinking, but I don't feel like I ever hear about him. Other than stuff like this, I don't see him in controversies or see him out as much as you would see a Newsom. And I actually think that's good because it feels like he's one of the rare candidates who has a super clean slate. Every time a new candidate runs, we're seeing this now with Plattner, and all these things get dug up and you're like, oh, darn. But hopefully Plattner wins, but like, ooh, I don't like this. Every other day we got a new story about something. Or Newsom, he's just been in politics so long, he said so many things that it's really easy to go dig up old clips. But Ossoff has a pretty clean slate from what I can tell. And that could be very helpful. It's that Obama vibe, right? It wasn't like Obama was this long-time fixture in American politics. He kind of came out of nowhere, it felt, and then became the nominee, and that can be an asset. Now, that makes it harder for you to build up name recognition in time, so I'm a little concerned about that. But right now, given how much damage Trump is doing, Ossoff kind of Obama, like they both start with O's, and I think for Americans they'll be like, hey, at least clean slate, cool vibe, talking about the issues I care about, and I haven't really heard of any scandals. Please, Ossoff, run number one, and please don't have any scandals. I'm tired of the scandals. And don't say a word about the debate. If I hear about the debate, and I better not have a 2020 tweet from you where you're like, I think, I don't even want to give an example, people will get upset, but like, you know, those old, we were all drunk on woke, which was fine. There's a lot of good things that came in that, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying that we got a little bit high on our own supply of wokeness. And the Tallaricos, for example, ended up saying things that are coming back to bite him, which I think is dumb. People are focusing on that. And it was coming from a good place, but people got a little bit too funky with the messaging around like what it means to be different identities or how guilty you should feel if you're this one or that one. People went a little far. And it doesn't feel like I've seen Ossoff's history being one where he was tweeting out stuff all the time like that. And that's good. Or, you know, you'll have candidates like, I don't know if Mamdani ever said this, but sometimes they'll dig up something and you said abolish the police or something. It's just like, it's not going to take down your campaign. You can quickly be like, hey, we were all just having a fun time. It was 2020. Who knew what was happening? And just dismiss it like Tallaricos doing and like Mamdani did. But it's less ideal when you did have some of those posts out there. And it's less ideal when you're like, oh, every time I'm in a porta potty, I'm jorking off. Graham. No, I defended him on that. But it's it would be nice for them to be like, our Oppa research is that he seems to have been working out a lot in preparation for a presidential run. Have you seen those glow-up pictures of him? He's like all skinny and kind of lanky. And then in the years since he became senator, he's just like, I'm ready. That RVM said Ossoff, AOC 2028. Can you imagine? There's an excitement to just that we got options this time. There's going to be so much discussion, and there's a little tingle where you know that people are going to get so vicious. Someone's going to be like in a different candidate's camp and hear me saying I really like Ossoff. I don't know the options yet, so I'm doing this very preemptively. But let's say I stick with it, and someone else's preferred Democratic candidate, someone else, they're going to be like, you're a traitor and you're disgusting. And that's fun. Trevor Starr and Holly, ... said, again, YouTube won't let me put my message in a super chat. See attached message, which is Happy Pride Month news twink with pride flags. There it is. YouTube doesn't like news twink. Yeah. Maybe just looking out for me, Jaden secretly banned the word twink. Do we want to do this? Why did I prep another Jill story today? Fine, we'll do it. Because we had fun last time somehow. We'll see. Last week we talked about how Joe Biden's coming out with her new memoir. And I understand she wants to tell her story. Fair, interesting story. She was the first lady to a pretty consequential president in a few ways. For a while, it seemed like it was going to be a really strong policy agenda. Some strong things got done. Then the ending was really catastrophic. And it's difficult to balance exactly how that all pan out in the story. So she wants to get her story out there. But a part of her story is a debate night. So we talk about this debate night again, as we talked about last week. And my thing is just, hey, we should have released this book a year earlier when everyone was still talking about that. We finally moved on from the 2024 election, which is nice because that's very traumatic. And you're bringing it back. And I was right. Right after she came out and had these conversations, Fox News is running chyrons May 31st of 2026 that read, questions about Biden's cognitive health resurface. We don't need any more questions about Biden's cognitive health. That is very irrelevant to what is happening right now. We talked about it for months, for years. Now it's time we talk about the current president's cognitive health. How about? And so I'm just kind of wincing every time I see on a news panel or a news chyron the discussion of this new memoir, because it's all focusing on the debate once again. Let's go.
In her book last fall, former Vice President Kamala Harris, she wrote...
Oh, and about the Kamala nomination and stuff. Because so right here, Jill takes a little shot at Kamala.
In her book last fall, former Vice President Kamala Harris, she wrote that staying in as long as he did was recklessness. That, quote, the stakes were simply too high to leave to one person's ambition. Does the former vice president perhaps have a bit of a point there?
That is her point of view, and if she felt that way, she should have said it.
The book...
Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. I don't love that. With love to Jill, truly, with love, why are we doing this? Do you know how united Democrats are right now? United. You know how long we were really mad at everybody within our own movement? A long time. Because everyone agreed something went wrong, but no one agreed on what went wrong. And so we all were screaming about it. Now we have a chance for a fresh start. Put up a candidate. We were talking about last segment, someone like Ossoff. You could have this resurgence of energy in the Democratic Party. A lot to be for and something real loud to be against, being what Trump's currently doing. And now you just created a headline where Jill takes a shot at Kamala, and now we're back to that. Which side are you on, Kamala or Jill? It's like, no, we're not doing that. We did that. We're not doing it anymore.
A bit of a point there?
That is her point of view, and if she felt that way, she should have said it.
The book, it's already, as you probably have heard, some fellow Democrats have expressed some frustrations with the timing of the book, reopening old wounds.
I'm not
potentially,
reopening
but this is just some of what they've been saying over the last few days.
You are. You want to. It is reopening old wounds. They finally scabbed, and you ripped off the scab, and it's satisfying. You know, when you got a little scab, and you're like, oh, you rip it off, and you're like, oh, that felt so good scratching it. But now you gotta wait for the scab again, and that's what happened. Now it's bleeding again, and everyone's talking about it. And oh, did Biden screw over Kamala? Did Kamala mess up? And I don't know who that's productive for. All for a memoir? Is it worth it? I don't know. Now, to her point of if Kamala had felt that way, she should have said something. Be honest with me. Because I defended Jill a little bit when people went, why did she go out in the post-debate rally and say Biden did great when she's now admitting she knew he didn't do great? It's like, you think the first lady's going to walk out there and be like, that was so bad. Yeah, now for the music. No, of course. So that's fine. Similarly, Jill, now I need to ask you, what was Kamala really supposed to do? As the vice president, she was supposed to walk in to a Biden family meeting, be like, what up, Hunter? Hey, Jill. Hey, Joe. Joe, I think you should drop off the ticket and make me the guy, the woman, person. Why did I say guy? The person. Make me the candidate. Or, in general, saying, hey, I think you shouldn't run. Would anyone have taken that seriously? I think y'all would have called her disloyal. I think you would have thought she was trying to open up a path for herself. So, yeah, should everyone have said everything that they thought? Yes, of course. Obviously, whatever they did do was not it, and it ended poorly. But is the expectation that Kamala, you would have received well her saying to Joe, don't be the candidate? That would have seemed very self-serving. Correct? Y'all would not have seen that as genuine. You would have thought, oh, she's trying to become the candidate herself. So that's just, it feels like we're just taking so many shots we don't need to take right now. Making me want to take actual shots, if you know.
It's life.
Let's talk about the book, because his age and his health, it's a good part of the book. And you write about this, that debate moment that so many people have talked about and written about, June of 2024. I want to remind our viewers exactly how part of it went down.
Nope, not watching it. I refuse. We beat Medicare. I get it.
So in the book, you write that you thought that he might have been having a stroke on stage during that part of the debate. But despite that, the debate ends, and you guys go on to have not one but two political events. And here's part of what you said a few hours later.
Did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. 4 more years.
In the days and weeks after that, you continued to insist that the president was fine. How do you square thinking that he may have had a stroke with what you were saying in the days and weeks after? How do you square those?
Well, look. So this is perfectly fine what she's about to say, which is, what was I supposed to do? Now, the answer is tell him, I thought you were having a stroke. Now's the time, as fast as possible, to push for someone else to be the nominee. Behind the scenes. I agree. What was she supposed to say publicly? You would have... It just wouldn't make any sense for the first lady to stand on stage. Like, yeah, Melania should go up at one of those events and be like, Donald, I'm not going to keep that accent going. You're not making any sense. Why did you just ask where I was when I'm standing right next to you? Every time I'm around you, I feel really icked. The most recent time you kissed me, it took 3 days for me to get the orange makeup off of my cheek. What's happening with your ankles, right? Yeah, in a sense, she should go out and say that publicly, but she's not gonna.
Craig, look at it from my point of view. So I'm watching, just like everybody else was, scared to death, like what is going on? He gets off the stage. I see he appears to be okay. He says to me, Jill, I really, in other words, messed up, didn't I? And I said, yes, you did. And so we get off, and I know we're going into another event, or we have 2 more to do. And my mind is racing. What do I say to him? What do I say to him? I'm his wife. I've got to lift him up. So we go to the next event, and I'm thinking, what do I say that will lift him up? That is true. I want to say the things that are true. And so I said, you answered every question. My mind's racing.
That's a pretty low bar.
Well, and so, I had to sort of lift him up. I mean, I'm his wife. I'm not going to get out on the stage there and say, Joe, you really screwed that up. I mean, and we have all our supporters there.
Imagine being Joe Biden and you're just having a nice restful Sunday and you turn on the TV. You're like, oh, my wife's on the TV. And you just hear her being like, I was thinking, this guy's about to fall over. He's about to collapse the stage. I was thinking, I can't go say he did so terribly. So I told him you answered every question. I would feel so weird to click on the TV and I'm sure she asked for his permission to say this stuff, but it's painful. You see what I mean? Is this really worth the memoir in June of 2026? I say no.
So, that's who we are. I mean, as I had to support him, I couldn't come out and, really publicly say, Joe, you did a terrible job in that debate.
In the book, you also write you write that was essentially sort of a one-off.
Yes.
That this is not who he had become.
No.
But Special Counsel Robert Hur, as you probably know, he described the former president, quote, as an elderly man with a poor memory. George Clooney, the actor, said at a private fundraiser before the debate, quote, Biden was the same man we saw that we all witnessed on that debate stage. Even his former chief of staff said that his memory had worsened over the course of his presidency.
A series of love letters. A Jill Biden story. Why couldn't it have been that? Here's love letters Joe and I wrote back and forth throughout our marriage. Why couldn't it be that? Why you had to put this in the book? Why are you doing this to me? To me? What have I ever done to deserve this? Oh, we're talking about George Clooney again. Not George Clooney.
Aged. He did. He got older. And we all saw him aging. There were the words that he would forget. But, we were all aging.
You wrote something. This is quite revealing in the book, and I want to put an excerpt on the screen. Okay. You write, because you questioned some of your decision-making, it seems, in the book. Had he grown too old for the job? And I hadn't noticed. I didn't think so, but could I be objective enough to be sure? The doctors assured us that he was healthy and able. In hindsight, were you able to be impartial?
Well, the doctors did assure us. I mean, he had an exam every year, a health exam like every president does. The doctors assured us he was healthy. And I saw him doing the job every single day. every single day. He got up, he went into the office, he did the job, he passed bipartisan legislation. You know, he worked, and I saw him work hours into the night. So yes, did I see him, slowing down a little bit when he got tired? Did he stutter a little bit at night? Yeah, sure. But he was still doing the job, and he was doing a good job.
You were his closest confidant.
Okay. I get it. So yeah, I guess my message stands. This just doesn't strategically make much sense, but she also wants to add her 2 cents. I'm sure she's feeling like the story is being written about the Bidens by everyone but the Bidens right now, okay? And so she's thinking, if I get out there and I can tell our side of the story, that will help to ensure his legacy is not all about the last 6 months of his presidency, when there was a lot that significantly happened before that. But what she, I guess, didn't think about enough is that the way the news cycle works is usually when a book comes out, they pick the juiciest, most controversial detail, and that is what 99% of people across political viewing, across the audiences of different shows will hear about, is the one, and that's going to be his health and his in the debate. And so then we're talking about that, and there'll be, oh, she said Kamala should have whatever, oh, beef. And that will be what almost everyone hears about. And then a very small percentage of people who actually buy the book will hear other parts of the story. And so now you have just manifested, after this had gone away, a relitigation of the most destructive time for the Democratic Party in a very, very long time. That's being relitigated again, doing more damage, reminding people of what they were shocked by, etc. And I don't get it. I don't get it at all. You could have written about everything and been like, enough has been said about that. But I just think people have an urge. When they're in significant positions, like the First Lady, it feels wrong to not be able to tell your whole story. And so they do. But this one just is coming out so late. So anyways, are any other screenshots coming in or no? Okay, good. Okay, cool. Let's get to this. We've talked a lot about this MAGA figure, Batya Ungar-Sargon, and she's cartoonishly pro-Trump. I don't understand News Nation. I don't exactly know what they're doing over there, but they hired her to be like a major host, even though over and over again before she got that job as a major TV host, she demonstrated that she is not credible or, attached to reality in the ways you would want a host to be. Even she, after being really memed for how pro-Trump she'll be, did a segment directed at Trump, being like, people, your supporters are hurting. And I'm going to show you that in a second. But to substantiate first how notable this is, let's remind ourselves of famous Batya moments.
Their daughter has...
This was her defending Trump's claim that, oh yeah, the tariffs are pushing up prices, whatever. Maybe instead of $5, you get your kid $1.
Daughter has 2 or 3 dolls, maybe a couple American Girl dolls, 2 or 3 expensive, nice dolls, and no crap from China. But if you go into a broke person's house, that floor is littered with broken toys from the dollar store.
So now we're shaming people for
Barbie shaming. Is the opportunity to make enough money to make the same decisions that every rich person is already making and keeping the cheap toys away from their kids. And the people braying the loudest about this are the people who would never let their kids buy those crappy toys. And it is so offensive to me because when you talk to working class people, they sound just like the president. They would love to be buying high quality stuff for their kids instead of 1,000 cheap things that are going to break immediately because that's what they can afford.
So her argument in defending Trump's, just get them less dolls if the tariffs are pushing up prices during the holidays. Her defense was rich people get a few high quality toys, whereas broke people, you walk into their house and there's this garbage from the dollar store all over their floors. That's why they're broke. They just keep getting cheap dolls for their kids, and they would love an opportunity to get a nice American-made American Girl doll instead of this crap from China. American Girl dolls, you should know, are made in China, which is a funny addition to that. But even aside from that whoopsie where she's like, rich people get American Girl dolls. We're trying to make a country where everyone can afford American Girl dolls because they're made in America, when they're actually primarily made in China. Funny. But more substantive is her thinking that Trump applying tariffs, making cheap toys more expensive, would in any way make it more plausible for low-income folks to afford expensive toys. That she never connects the dots. Sure, maybe you're right that fancy toys are in rich people's houses and cheaper toys are in low-income people's houses. How do the tariffs that make the low-income toys more expensive make the families more able to buy the expensive toys? Never squares that for us. Or you remember when she called Trump virile?
And I hold myself to account for that. But it's just hilarious. This is the most effective president of my lifetime. The next president is going to get half as much done. So whatever is going on with him, he seems to me to be very virile, but he is extremely.
He's virile. Yeah. So that's who we're talking about. And for even her to be doing a segment directed at Trump saying, Mr. President, your supporters are suffering because of your policies is unexpected, to say the least. And it gives you a sense of a sign of the times.
Mr. President, your supporters are hurting. People who voted for you 3 times, who would walk over Legos covered in hot coals to vote for you.
Who would walk over a bunch of poor people's cheap toys for you.
Broke. Some are skipping meals. Others are buying canned chicken in bulk because that's all they can afford. The cost of food and gas is just so high. People are finding it impossible to pay for their kids' after-school sports once they fill up the car with gas. People who support you and support the war in Iran, who were willing to pay a little more to make sure our grandkids don't have to live with the threat of a nuclear-armed terror state, who were willing to pay a little more for the possibility of reshoring our great manufacturing base with tariffs, well, they've paid all they can. Some are expressing anger and frustration. They feel that they voted for you to bring down the costs. Others are just quietly skipping meals. And contrary to what some in your administration keep saying, it's not just vibes. Inflation is eating up wage growth, and then some. Gas is $4.50 a gallon as we head into the summer travel season. The producer price index is up 6% as we head into grilling season. Savings are at an all-time low. 13% of credit card balances are now over 90 days delinquent, the highest since 2011. You keep saying that the stock market is doing great, and that is true, but the gains of the economy and nearly all consumer spending are concentrated in the top 10%. Everyone else is broke. You keep saying that gas will plummet when Operation Epic Fury is over, and there's a new memorandum of understanding on the table. But even if there is a deal, it will take a lot of time for gas to come down. And in the meantime, the American people need something to get them through the slog. Your supporters need help, Mr. President, and they need it from you. We brought in $200 billion in tariff revenue. Couldn't some of that be shared with Americans struggling to put food on the table?
Who'd you get the tariff revenue from, Batya? You told us that was awesome. And now you're saying maybe you give some of that back to the people that had to pay it? It's interesting that she's using that tone of voice. You could tell it was very different than the tone of voice she used in the CNN thing, because it was sort of talking to a baby. Mr. President. I just thought of the senator, Senator, what was the Alabama senator who did the Katie Britt, right? Was that her? Who did the response to Biden's State of the Union? Mr. President. People are hurting. And it is not what you promised. Mr. President, you have to do something. You remember her? No, but it wasn't that. It wasn't that vibe. But it was very, Mr. President, you keep saying everything's good, but it is not. Because she's trying to be unoffensive to him while explaining, if he happens to see this, that things indeed are being made worse. Now, I missed one aspect to this. Why? Why have the metrics gotten worse since Trump took over, Batya? Because you were loyally going on TV and saying, this is brilliant what Trump's doing and this is all going to pay off pretty soon. By 2026, we're going to have 6% GDP growth and wages are going to be surging, way outpacing inflation. The opposite's happened. So I really appreciate. I was just talking to my beautiful, wonderful, intelligent mother who was telling me that I get a little bit too, I hold grudges with people too much in the public eye who admit that actually Trump's doing a bad job and I should be better about going, hey, if you feel that way, come join us. And not so, well, you were wrong, so F you. And I take the criticism. I kind of get what she's saying, which is the best way to widen your coalition is to be very open to new members. Now, Batya's not by any stretch of the imagination joining the liberal coalition that I'm a part of yet. But in honor of my mother, I will say, good job, Batya. That segment was very well put together. You did lay out a lot of jarring metrics that should shake awake the people at the White House who keep telling us, no, actually, everything's perfect. And it is significant to see someone who's been as cartoonishly loyal to him as you, realizing that the reality being sold, the alternative reality being sold by the White House is false. It's a lie. It doesn't match the data or how people are feeling either. But I do have a hard time not going, so then what's the analysis on why? Because you broke down what is happening. Why is it happening? Is she yet willing to admit it's because of bad decisions she defended by Trump? Is that not an important part of someone changing their views, is admitting their previous views were wrong? I'm not mocking you. Well, then you suck forever. I'm not doing that. But you do kind of have to know why you were wrong to know that you're wrong. Do you? I'd like to at least hear. If any of that you blame on him, you're going, please help. We need help. Cool. Here's why we need help. Cool. But is there any responsibility on the shoulders of Trump would be my only question. You know what I mean? Hey, Trump went to the hospital, which we talked about in a previous segment, but we didn't talk about the results yet, and so we can get into that now, which is somehow this never happens. This never happens with people his age, but his doctors in the medical report said that somehow he had a doubling of size of his manhood. And I was just like, wow, I didn't know that happened so late in life that it would keep growing. No. Almost. The medical report was almost that silly. He's in perfect health and everything's awesome. Really? But here, I think this tells the whole story, was him driving to his golf club over the weekend. He's doing... I can be consistent. When Biden's mouth was open for unexplainable reasons, we said, close it. Same thing. Trump's is like, Maybe it's because in his later years in life, he's gotten kind of fixated on handsome men, and that Secret Service agent does look pretty handsome. So Trump's like, you're almost as hot as Jackson Dart. I don't know. But here's the Wall Street Journal reporting. In Trump's physical report, doctors see gaps in details. His doctors conspicuously removed certain parts that you would expect in a medical report of its kind. He did get another cognitive test, apparently. The White House memorandum, it's not actually, it's a dementia screening test. The White House memorandum describing President Trump's recent physical examination lacks details of the results of tests to assess his cardiovascular health. Meaning, they told us he's in great cardiovascular health and all the health, but not how and what the results were. That's kind of the big, what they removed from it was actually here, and here's the results. It was just, let me summarize and trust us, it's awesome. Same doctors who told us Trump was whatever we examined in that other segment. What was it, 225, 6'3"? 5% body. And 5% body fat? This is one of several areas of the report the doctors said stood out for its lack of specificity. Trump spent about 3 hours at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. That's a long time for a physical, right? I've had a lot of physicals, and I've told you about the doc I used to have who always had really cold hands for the genital check. And it always made me feel bad. And I always insisted on telling her, trust me, normally things are better when I'm not having a cold surface touch. You know what I mean? Like I would specify that with her. And she was like, I'm a doctor and you're 10 years old. I don't need to know that. And so I get that physicals can be bizarre. I once had a ruptured eardrum, and for weeks I went to the doctor and said, I still can't hear well. And she would just get a Q-tip and dig around in my ear. And then she had me just put a sponge in my ear, and it was not getting better. And then I went to an ear doctor, and with one cleaning, they fixed it. I just had a bunch of blood that she kept jamming into my ear. Okay? So, and it would take a while, and little tears would go down my, and then she would beg, by the way, while you're in pain, since you're here, let me give you 3 shots. Just it was brutal. So, and then she once told us that, tell me about your diet. She also told me I was gonna be 6'1". Okay, so that didn't happen. She said, tell me about your diet. And we said ice cream. We like ice cream. And we were like, so that's desserts. And she was like, no, that's dairy. So she let us believe that ice cream was dairy, like yogurt. So anyways, I'm just mad at her. I don't know why I brought that up. Oh, because those would be long physicals, but not 3 hours. 3 hours is like, what are you getting done for 3 hours? I once fell out of a golf cart and hit my head and forgot my age, my grade, who my friends were, where I was, anything about myself. And I got in and out of the ER in under 3 hours. And I got a head scan, whatever. They said, wow, we've never seen a brain so good.
A brain.
As this one. And I had one of those neck braces. I was like, and it did not take 3 hours. All of that was to say that the 3 hours was a long time. The president's physician wrote in a memorandum released late Friday that Trump remains in excellent health, demonstrating strong cardiac, pulmonary, neurological, and overall physical function. The description of Trump's cardiac health cites results from a coronary typically done to check for narrowed or blocked arteries in the heart. And it makes an image of the heart, sound waves. They did an AI analysis estimating the president's cardiac age was 14 years younger than his actual age. Yet the White House memo didn't include crucial information typically yielded from such results that will provide evidence for those findings, okay? You even have a CNN contributor laughing at this claim that they got an AI analysis that deems his cardiovascular health is that of a 14-year younger person.
But last year at this time, they documented that the president had no swelling in his legs.
So how about this AI, AI of 14 years younger?
Yeah. So they reported that last year as well. And when I discussed this with some of my colleagues in cardiology, everyone laughed. That's not a clinical use tool. There was one paper on this technology. So, but that's not really a way to gauge cardiac health.
Well,
that's not a clinically accepted or relevant tool.
Well, his birthday is coming up.
It's flattering for him. It's flattering for the president.
You think,
but
Dr. Reiner?
But it's not a clinically used tool.
Well, thank you for your expertise.
So not only does the report very noticeably remove elements that you would expect, doctor calls BS on White House excuse for Trump's incomplete medical report, but they're also trying to trot around this. His heart is 14 years younger than... Okay, can we get the test results? I don't need to see the average, but can we get a fair, detailed description of the results? I won't know what they mean. And that's why I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to read this and be like, normally they include the... And then they have a bunch of words that are medical words. But you would include those, is the point. This is abnormal. You would include the specific... So that we go, oh yeah, there's no BSing that. It's very easy to BS, hey, we looked at everything, we did a bunch of scans, he looks great. How so? What were the results? That's what people are curious about, given how much distractions from this topic and efforts to conceal his health problems have been exposed with the Trump White House. Anything else? Nothing else? Wow. Audience got very quiet at the end there. Very busy at the beginning, quiet at the end. That's okay. Appreciation to all of you. Make sure you become a member by clicking the join button. And at 6 p.m. Eastern, if you are a member, as always, we'll be doing our live bonus show, which is always a good time. Much love to you all. Talk to you next time.